are in a moderate period of the freedom movement, and there we discussed how the Congress, the Indian National Congress, have conducted several meetings in different parts of the India to unite everyone and to build a national consciousness among diversified Indian people. And some intellectuals like Dadabhai Nauroji, R.C. Dutt, and M.G. Ranade. They also worked for explaining how Britishers looted us, in what way we were looted, exploited by the British rule. And this British colonial rule made India very poor. The rule of the British given many problems to the Indians. Especially we see that the colonial rule in India thrown our India into poverty. So during that time, Congress passed many resolutions on the salt tax, treatment of the Indian laborers abroad, and sufferings of forest dwellers, that is Adivasis, whose life was disturbed by the British Forest Department. And here, Congress also passed a resolution for building Indian industries to end the poverty in India. So here the British rule did not help us. So the moderate leaders, they have reached out of the people in different parts of the country by conducting demonstrations, meetings, tours, and lectures. The Congress leaders believed that British were committed that to freedom and justice. In British, that is at England, they have they have freedom, justice. So such a justice and freedom would be provided to India. So our moderate leaders in the Congress, they felt that British were committed to the freedom, justice, and would accept the demands when expressed properly. What were the demands of our Indian National Congress? That is giving freedom, justice, and civil service examination should be conducted in India, right? And they want their own rule. We people want our own rule. Then what is next? There should be greater representation for in British Imperial Legislative Council. So these are the demands of the Indian National Congress. So when these demands are expressed in a proper way, there would be acceptance to these demands from the British. This was the belief of our moderate leaders, Dadabhai Nehruji, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and what to call Bal Gangadhar Tilak. These leaders were there. Okay, Bal Gangadhar Tilak belongs to the extremist phase. Understand? So here we see that their moderate leaders, they felt that British would accept the demands of the Indian people. So these moderate leaders, they carried on their agitation. That means they expressed their demands through the newspapers, public lectures. In newspapers, they expressed their demands. Many of our intellectuals, leaders, they joined in a newspaper writing that the problems of Indians by the British rule and whatever the needs they have, whatever the demands they have, that they expressed it through the newspapers. Publicly, they conducted meetings. Congress have conducted meetings, especially moderate leaders in the Congress. So whenever they conducted public meetings and written their agitations through the newspapers, there they passed resolutions that to submit the petitions to the government. Petition means an urge, a request to the British government regarding the demands or the problems. So many times resolutions were passed by the moderate leaders and also submitted petitions to the government. So in short, it may be said that that means these leaders, moderate leaders, have followed a policy called pray, petition, and protest. These are the methods moderate leaders have followed through the non-violence. They requested, they prayed to the British officials regarding the demands and problems. They sent petitions to the British government and they have conducted a protest in non-violence method. So all these are the methods based on non-violence. Pray means requesting. How do we pray to the God? In the same manner, we, our Indians, prayed to the Britishers regarding the problems to be soluted and demands have to be fulfilled. Sometimes moderate leaders also gone for sending the petitions, that means request letters to the British government. How do you take a leave from the your class teacher writing a letter, right? Similarly, all Indians have sent petitions to the British government. British government did not see that petitions. Just without opening the letter, they thrown into the dustbin. Then also, our moderate leaders paid attention to the patiency and requested. Then they conducted protest. What is mean by protest? It is a method opposing the British rule and a method of expressing the problems and demands based on non-violence. So there was a peaceful protest. So with the pray, petition, protest, there was no problem at all to the British rule. Several times, many times, our moderate readers in the period of 1885 to 1905, first 20 years period, this is the method they followed. They were not able to persuade the government. That means their what to call ways or failed. The efforts made by the moderate leaders have not convinced the British government to change. They because British government want to exploit or India. So, but in this process, we see that formulated Indian opinion on important issues. Here in the moderate period, what do we see? Moderate leaders have failed in convincing the government, but they succeeded in building unity and national consciousness among diversified Indians. That is the success of the what moderate people. Understand? So it was very important for the future growth of Indian national movement. What was very important? The unity. Unity was built in Indians by the moderate leaders. So this unity very essential for creating Indian national movement, right? So the moderate leaders have succeeded in building the national consciousness and unity among the what Indian people who were diversified one. Okay, but they failed in convincing the British. Okay, why did they fail? Because they were very peaceful. They adopted peaceful methods like pray, petition, protest. So with the pray, petition and protest, there was not at all problem to the British rule. So Britishers have what paid deaf ear to the Indian people. What do you mean by deaf ear? It means that they neglected. Understand? So during this period, there were major famines in British India. India, which was under British colonial rule, is called British India. So there were some major famines occurred in British India from late 18th century. The major famine is that Bengal famine, Great Bengal famine, which occurred in 1943. Okay, this is 18th century. Understand? And here these famines were triggered by bad harvest, but their consequences were devastating because of the policies of the colonial government. So what we see here, these famines occurred because of the bad harvest, means the crop failed there. And what was the result? This is the result of the British colonial policy in India. The British government collected a huge part of the produce. That means whatever produced by Indian people, that was taken by Britishers as a tax, and they did not leave any buffer with the peasants. Anything also they did not left to the peasants. Okay, that means peasants were forced to pay tax when crops failed, when there was bad harvest. At that time also, Indian people were forced to pay taxes to the government. So during bad harvest time, Indian people were forced to pay the tax. A huge part of the produce means, suppose the crop cultivated by Indian farmers is good, then that all taken by the Britishers as tax. Even in the bad condition, suppose in the bad harvest, in the sense what when the crops were not good in production, at that time also there the Britishers have collected taxes. Understand? So the British government did not control the prices. which were high at that time. Even they did not take care of supplying the food during the famines period. Famines is a famine is a period where we find shortage of food. So during the shortage of food, it is the responsibility of the government to supply food to the people. We were under British colonial rule. The British government had a responsibility on Indians to supply the food during the famine period. They were Britishers. They were what to call Europeans. They did not pay any attention towards the supply of food to Indians. So the government did not intervene in controlling the prices or supply of food stuff during the famines and allowed the traders to hoard. That means to stop the water crops that should not be released from the godowns and increased prices because see during the critical time prices have to be very least one, but British government increased the taxes. British government increased the prices of the commodities because they want much more money and the resources to be exploited from India. Understand? So this led to the death of millions of people during the famines. Some lakhs of people have died. In the last class, I have shown some pictures, right? So that is the situation occurred here. Many millions of the people suffered due to lack of food and died. This is the what to call the situation we see in first 20 years of what to call our British India. Understand? So here moderate leaders during 1885 to 1905 they succeeded in building national consciousness and unity among all Indians and also succeeded bringing awareness to the Indian people how Indians were exploited by the British rule. Okay, but what they failed here? They failed in convincing the British government to look into the problems of the Indians. Okay, so we call that period as a moderate period because they followed moderate policy. What is meant by moderate? Moderate in the sense very calm, very peaceful. We call it a moderate period. Moderate is a word refers to peace. So 1885 to 1905, that's 20 years period, our Indian leaders, Congress leaders, they followed pray, pray, petition, and protest. Okay. So these three are based on non-violence. Understand? So it's very peaceful. So as they followed these peaceful methods, this period is called here moderate period. Okay. So moderate period over after another period started that is from 1905 to 1920, that what we call extremist phase. Okay, during this period Swadeshi movement started. Okay, so here with the beginning of a Swadeshi movement in 1903, our national movement turned to a major leap in freedom movement. Understand? We see that in this period there women, students, and what to call large section of the urban and rural population of Bengal and other parts of the India actively involved in politics for the first time. We see that this is the time that is extremist phase. In this period, all over India, all the people taken part and actively involved into the politics of India. So it is the first time in India all the people actually involved. In modern period, we have seen that somewhere the people involvement is less. In 1857 revolt also, especially the soldiers have participated. Common people have not involved very much and actively. By this period of extremist, we see there was a large section of all people involvement actively into politics. Understand? That is, how can we say one major movement started by this period against the partition of Bengal. Bengal was a large province, today what we call Bangladesh, right? And West Bengal, one state in our India. So West Bengal, Bangladesh, Assam, all those collectively called Bengal. This was very large province. So Britishers wanted to break the unity of Indian people here. Britishers were unable to control Indians in Bengal. Okay, there was a strong unity between Hindus and Muslims at Bengal. So Britishers were not able to get control on Bengal. So to get control on Bengal, Britishers at that time, Lord Curzon, who was that? Lord Curzon was the governor of the Bengal, and Lord Curzon announced for partition of Bengal because to get control on it and break the unity of Hindus and Muslims. Understand? So to break the unity of Hindus and Muslims, Britishers have partitioned Bengal into two divisions. Okay, that what is called East Bengal and West Bengal. This is the policy we call divide and rule policy. Okay, what is mean by divide and rule policy? When something is not coming into control, then there should be division in it. Okay, so Bengal was a larger province. It was not coming into the grip of the Britishers. So Britishers, to get control on it, they divided into two parts. Okay, so why did they divide it? To break the unity of Hindus and Muslims. Hindus and Muslims, uh, they did not stick to their religion. They fought for what? Unity. Understand? They have shown that a strong commitment to the India. That is a nationalistic feeling. Okay, so we all should work in that way. There were strong nationalistic feelings in Bengal. Okay, so against the British rule. So British were not able to control. So they created a problem there by separating Hindus and Muslims, in dividing Bengal into two provinces, that is East Bengal and West Bengal. So this policy what we call divide and rule policy. So against the partition of Bengal, which was done by Lord Curzon in 1903, there our Indian nationalists immediately seen this as a political act by the British government to divide the Bengali people and to weak and to make our Indian movement weak. Okay, there our national movement was very strong. Though Hindus and Muslims living in Bengal, they collectively standing against the British. Okay, there was strong nationalistic movement there. So Lord Curzon partitioned Bengal in 1903. Against this action, political action by British, which divided the Bengali people, there our Indian people, the ordinary people of Bengal, they have engaged in a protest movement. They took rallies in the streets to show their protest against the partition of Bengal. As Britishers did a partition of Bengal, against that, our Indian people, ordinary people of Bengal, they took a street rally. This is a protest method against the partition of Bengal. There were massive protests, petitions, and campaigns, but they were not heeded to, and the government partitioned Bengal in 1905. In 1903, Lord Curzon announced that Bengal would be partitioned. So when this act announced by Lord Curzon, against this act, our Indian people, Bengali people, they took street marches saying that it should be stopped. But we failed, okay, in achieving that one. There was a strong protest, many street marches, many people took participation actively, conducted campaigns, but it not give good results. Finally, Britishers succeeded in dividing Bengal into two parts in 1905. So several protest meetings were held, and together our Indian people decided to boycott English cloth and salt. That is called what to call Swadeshi movement and boycott of foreign goods. In 1905, against the partition of Bengal, our Indian people have started two movements. One is Swadeshi movement, second is boycott of foreign goods instead. So these two movements started in extremist period.